Well, let's just see where this goes. Yesterday, Saturday the 14th, a substantial portion of particularly the American society stood up and made a statement regarding the political, we should call it turmoil, that seems to have invaded what it is that our Western democracy and democracies all over the globe really stand for. The ongoing significance of that apex moment that arrived yesterday has the potential for carrying an extended weight factor for a while, but it's going to require a consistent re-amplification of similar energies or energies along wavelengths that have been opened up quite specifically by the majority of us now to basically state, what the current administration here in the United States is up to is so antithetical to what it is that we as human beings are better than. Last night, as the dreamscape unfolded, this was middle of the night, 2:30, I was awakened because it was like the gods were having a battle. This is why I kind of chose this image behind me. There was Mars, the god of war, in a square aspect to Uranus, the god of chaos and revolution. And a square aspect is like there is tension there. Mars at 28 degrees of Leo, and Uranus at 28 degrees of Taurus. Earth and fire. Well, you kind of see that image possibly behind me. Let's pull up a chart. This dance, this is a chart for today, the 15th, where Mars, as you can see, is shifted to 29. Uranus is still, it's almost at 29. And there's a reason that I think the gods were doing battle in my dreams last night. It wasn't just this Mars, Uranus, hard square. It was Jupiter in square to Saturn and Neptune by, position. Jupiter, Zeus, the king of the gods, in square to Saturn, Kronos, the epitome of structure and design, trying to hold things together in some format. And I'm not going to go into the story of the long range story of these epic beings, their dimensions being large. These were the essence of superior beings. beings, essentially. That's the storyline. But these squares, from water sign to fire sign, Jupiter to Saturn, that's going on right now. It's going to be with us for a few days. I'm going to show you a secondary chart. Partly this 28 degrees of Taurus for Gemini, for Uranus, and 28 degrees, I could go back a day just to show you, and 28 degrees of Mars here in Leo is exactly that 28 degrees of Leo, exactly opposite from my ascendant, which makes Uranus exactly square my ascendant. So I feel this energy in the core of my being, a certain intensity, if you will. Now, bump us ahead a day to today. Now, the chart I'm going to show you, and this is one that I was part of the dreamscape that I woke up with last night, this is Donald Trump's chart here in the middle. He has 29 degrees of Leo ascending, which means that Mars that's transiting right now is, been toying with his Mars at 26 degrees of Leo and his ascendant. The process of, what should we call it? The ramifications of someone in his particular shoes and in his particular position on the planet right now being tickled rather dynamically by this Mars-Uranus square, with Mars, the god of war, sitting on his ascendant. Now Mars comes around every 2.3 years or something and crosses that, but at the same time having Uranus in a square aspect to that over an extended period of time, the god of revolution and chaos. You have to ask yourself, because Prometheus is also the being that can be engaged with when considering anything to do with Uranus, which brings up the factor of why have something be so rattling and shaking, which Uranus often brings to the table, is because Prometheus is the great awakener, trying to, inspire us, if you will, to see that there's something that we were missing in this life dance process that is, requiring some upset, some upheaval to transpire so that we can, recognize that, there might be an alternative direction that is the awakening process that is trying to get our attention. Now, you just have to ask yourself, here's our, Trumpish character, born with Sun, North Node, and Uranus. Yes, that great shaker and awakener, right there in conjunction with one another, up here in Gemini in the 10th house of, you guessed it, authority. The collective governance, the potential manipulation of what it is that is required to control things. I use things. It could be people, but things. And, just paying attention to what has been transpiring through this man and his, collective cadre of hand-chosen beings to upset the apple cart, so to speak, about what it is that democracy stands for. Yeah, you can kind of see that the demonstrations of yesterday were to confront this, out of control, demeaning of so many aspects of humanity's good sense. That is the reason why we as soul beings are here on this planet at this time. Now, my concern is what might be the ramifications of someone in Trump's position being extremely rattled by so much energetic response to what it is that he is trying to create and initiate, with that Mars right on his ascendant in square to Uranus right now. This is why I really, really must emphasize that the process that apexed yesterday needs to be continued from here forward until, something, which I'm going to say snaps, and more people wake up to this alternate reality as being out of place. And the gods in my dreams last night, there was tension. The other tension is, of course, the Jupiter in square to Saturn up here, which is going to hang with us for a while. Kronos, Saturn, and Jupiter, Zeus, king of the gods, up here, close to, a little bit beyond where his natal sun is. Saturn, just entering this 8th house of death, destruction, and the potential for rebirth to transpire within the Trump world. Discomfort? Yeah, it's a square. This fire and this water energies are, there are things afoot that are not entirely as, clear. It was said right off the bat, when I come in to rule you, I will be doing things that are transparent. Well, you may not have noticed this, but transparency has not been a part of this current administration. So much is going on behind the scenes that, very few of us are aware of, and there's so much being done to make sure that that stays the case by this administration. Now, I really didn't want to get into the political thing, but this apex situation that erupted yesterday was so friggin' appropriate for what it is that we the people need to engage with continuously going from this point forward. I had a shamanic journey drum circle group that I attend every Friday. And during that time, the journey took me to, the spirit of balance and rhythm. I'd look at my notes there. And I was shown that music was what I was drawn toward. And as soon as that happened, John Lennon's song, Imagine all the people living for today. Hey, yes. And this vision that I was shown was so potent, because what I saw was demonstrations of large groups of people around the globe, and this song showing up, being hummed into, and large masses of us, we the people, singing out the words of this most dynamic energy that John Lennon tuned into as a part of what we all are. It was a very intense journey. I literally could not contain the expanse that my heart was erupting into. The tears flowed. We are way more potent working together than any of us could ever imagine. Anyway, enough for my journey. This week, our astrological dance, which begins on these notes that I'm bringing to you. There's a shifting taking place. Not of a minor scale, that we need to keep our finger on the pulse of. If, as a human species, we're to enhance our capacities together in harmony with this planetary being that we live on and with. There are challenges afoot. There are forces that basically have tuned into an economic version of what it is that is transpiring on the planet, to the basic demise, if you will, of the environment. Because the bottom line is dollars and cents, a pound, a lira, a ruble. And it's an illusion. At the very best, there are so many more significant uses of our resources that, as in the Lennon song goes, imagine there's no countries, it isn't hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You feel it, my friends. We are at an apex epitomal moment where we can alter quite substantially, but we have to do it together the version of what it is that our souls envision for this experience of being alive on the planet right now. Hijacked. Yeah. There are factors afoot that are trying to, make us discomfortable, distrustful of one another, when the reality is we all come and are made of the essences of this planet that we live on. Every one of us, the same substances. Yeah, we have different colors of skin. But oh my God, that's so shallow to put so much, discouraging, discomforting weight upon as if it meant something from a soul perspective. It doesn't. It means that we have variety of soul essence that is meant to interchange and exchange versions of our life experience with one another as we grow into a more cohesive version of what it is to be present here as a limbic entity on Earth right now. And the astrology for right now is saying, we're at one of those epitomal moments. There are energies afoot. We all can feel it. This is why we had those demonstrations yesterday here in this country and other parts of the globe as well, to say enough is enough. It's time to take back control of what it is that we, as life beings, are meant to engage with one another in a vast array of delight. On Tuesday, Mars jumps from Leo into Virgo. Change of hats. In Leo, Mars, ruler of both Aries and Scorpio, has been, driven in a fiery kind of way to, be a factor in control, to stir up animosities potentially with one another, and to really ask us at only a surfacey level if we can get along with each other. Mars shifting into Virgo is a different set of energy circumstance. The impulse, the drive of Mars stepping into the field of, what shall we call it? Kind of a level of curiosity. It is ruled by Mercury after all, but more a curiosity for meaningful context. This is essential Virgo at work. What is it? And why is it that this, that, or the other thing have landed upon our plates at this time? Is there a overriding contextual flavor to this driven Mars energy that is trying to awaken us to a meaningful context for why there are so many different kinds of us seemingly on this planet? Think about that. Mars is going to be in Virgo for a while. We're being asked to, try and come up with some level, some contextual flavor of meaningfulness. The last quarter moon happens on Wednesday here in Aries. Actually, it happens at the very tail end of Pisces, but the moon moves so fast, a degree every 2 hours, that during this day on Wednesday, a mercurial day, by the way, we have our last final waning quarter moon. And it has asking us, that new moon that began, 3 weeks ago in Gemini, saying, how? If you set your intentions appropriately, what drives my curiosity? That's a good Gemini way to consider this particular lunar cycle we're on. What is it that I'm curious about? With the last quarter moon, you reach that point where the moon has had a chance to basically wander around 3/4 of the chart, touching, stimulating energies, bringing things up to consider based on 3/4 of the chart. And it reaches that final quarter where it has to ask itself, have I been appropriate with what it was that my curiosity has led me into for these last 3 weeks? Have I asked questions that have a contextual quality to them that will enhance my living protocol and, by extension, our living protocol together with each other? This particular last quarter moon there at the tail end of Pisces, is tweaking a deep and profound version of spiritual essence that is in play for this last waning quarter of this lunar cycle before it jumps, on this Wednesday into the Aryan fiery realm where Saturn and Neptune, it crosses over their paths. And so you get those potential, Saturnian restrictions that are trying to get our attention, yet at the same time you have this Neptunian version of that Piscean deep and profound oceanic level of awareness that is infused into why might some factors need a container, Saturn, in order to develop and grow. Because, that transition between Pisces and Aries it's the awakening of a seed element, Pisces, that has been developed and is being planted anew in that Aryan moment to see what develops. How is your seed process developing, my friends? Is there some, underlying deep meaning in what it is that you hope to grow, both something and into something that will be you After all, Aries' first house is like, hello world. Here I am. I don't know necessarily anything, but I'm here to experience, to test the waters of this living dance. Thursday comes along, and we have this exact square of Jupiter and Neptune in play, which, is not that far away from our Saturn. It's just that, Jupiter and Neptune, the two rulers of Pisces, in a square aspect to one another, there is the potential for a meaningful level of questions that are attempting from Cancer, the realm of our deep core rootedness, home and hearth, family, our ancestral linkage, tied in with that Neptunian, in this case, fiery Neptunian experience that is forming this inconjunct 150 degrees with Mars over here, having just entered Virgo. And I bring that up because we have developing two yods. Yod is known as a finger of God. And what it is two 150-degree aspects forming from two planets that are 60 degrees apart, or a sextile. Now, when planets are 60 degrees apart, it means that their planetary energies are in signs that they work well together. Here we have a water-earth combination. In water and earth signs, there is some camaraderie that's always in play when that's the case. And here we have Jupiter and Mars, Oh, look, we have a driving Martian energy and Jupiter, which never, ever says, let's keep it small. That's more Saturn's function. It's how can we grow this experience? How can we expand upon the process of being alive? And, this is down there in that fourth house, not the house, in the sign of Cancer. It says, are there aspects of my community involvement with hearth, home, family, and my roots that the ancestors are trying to awaken me to with this potential Martian-driven energy of trying to make a meaningful context of that story? Now, the 150-degree aspects, these quincunxes, these are aspects that do not easily function well together. And the reason why is here we have air with water. We have air Aquarius with earth. And air and water and air and fire, there's always a hesitancy as far as, jumping together into some kind of an experience that is going to be resolved effectively. No. That the quincunx it's an aspect that says if you want a resolution, and the sextile, Jupiter to Mars, it wants a resolution, but who is the planet that is at the focus of where this resolution is? It's Pluto in Aquarius. Well, Pluto is kind of like, let's see. What kind of a resolution can we have here? And might you be willing to die for a cause? Oh, that's kind of a heavy thought to try and bring into the consideration. Die for a cause? Is there a cause worth dying for that, might be from the Aquarian perspective afoot right now? What were those demonstrations of yesterday about? How dynamic is and will continue to be our perspective about what it is that yesterday was driving us to come together. Together is the key to say, no more are we going to follow or go in a line that is trying to, separate us from one to another. No, not. Well, Pluto says, perhaps it is the aspect that we are, standing up to that has to die. Because it will, most inevitably, unless we change it, create more death upon this planet than we could ever possibly imagine. And at the same time, just to add, a little extra spice into the mix of what it is that we are, formulating in our cooking cauldron pot today for this week, we have another yod forming, and it's got this sextile between Pluto and Neptune, with Saturn coming to play in that game. Air, fire. Air and fire signs, we air and fire signs get along really well together. Fire is an energy, a pulsating creation energy that wants to, make things happen. And air, we are thinking signs. We are bringing, from an Aquarian perspective, we are bringing the experience of invention into what it is that we are being inspired to do by the fire. And at the crux of that is, lo and behold, we are not done with our Martian dance yet. Mars over here in Virgo, it's kind of like, well, guys, there's a stability that Virgo represents in its, trajectory to formulate a path forward that carries meaningfulness, that doesn't really go out of its way to, engage at the fire-air side of the equation, which is trying to, invent something new, make something happen fast and stuff. Virgo is much more methodical in how it's going. However, this is Mars that we're talking about here. So, you can almost feel the potential for a little bit more excitability, perhaps, in, what's spinning up the energy of Virgo right now. Yeah. And so it's likely that, we may come up with ideas and change from a Virgo perspective that are going to take us somewhere. But are we really going to know what they are? From that Martian Virgo perspective, we might have to, take a chance. Step across the line of what it was that we thought was potential into new territory that, won't necessarily be comfortable, but is required. Anyway, those two yods are happening as we go through this week. And a yod basically has got I'm going to give it about 1.5 degrees space. So these are forming on this 19th, on the 20th. Oh, we have a whole new energy that has showed up here at 8 in the morning here on the Pacific time coast. The sun, that driving impulse of energy and experience has just shifted out of our curiosity Gemini realm into Cancer. Feel the shift of resonance, that, being grounded in an awareness of what it means to be home. Feel the warmth of the heart. Feel the camaraderie of your family, and how far back is or are your family connections? Do you and are you aware that the ancestors who have lived and died well are rooting for you? They're rooting for us to do something meaningful, to change this version of reality we are living in as soul beings. Always, always, always are about. Welcome to the summer solstice. Solstice. The sun stands still. That's what solstice is. Something standing still, and standing still right there at 0 degrees Cancer. An epitomal, cardinal point of the zodiac, which, if you look at it, we have some cardinal aspects right here. The spring equinox point, 0 degrees Aries, with Saturn and Neptune quite close to it. So, the sun moving into Cancer is immediately going to be coming into this square aspect to our Saturn and Neptune, which we've already chatted about. So, what might this water, fire connection bring up? Which I must remind you, what we did yesterday, energetically, physically, standing in solidarity for what we stand for and against, that is at work here at the political level in America, challenging democracy. We're not done with that yet. We need to basically stand firm and consistent with holding people's feet to the fire that are trying to, paint us into a corner with lies, distractions, distruths of what it is that's going on that isn't. Okay, the weekend comes, and that sun, look at that, only 2 minutes away from the exact square to Saturn. It ain't over till it's over. You have to ask yourself, am I willing to fit into a container that seems to want to, distract me from all that life has to offer around me? Saturn in Aries, that, it's driven by a level of curiosity, but, a limited curiosity. That's how Saturn functions. And the sun down there in Cancer, in square to that, is saying, wake up. We are a family of humanity. We have things to do together to alleviate the discourse of inharmony here on planet Earth between each other one of us in our different, seemingly different trajectories that we have chosen to live through here on Earth. I'm sorry that I'm not really sorry that this particular look this week may have run a little longer, but this is a dynamic time. This is not time to just pussyfoot around and say, oh, it'll all blow over. It'll blow over in a fashion based upon how dedicated you and I are going forward into something dynamic and new. The invitation is there. We took some steps yesterday, but there are more required. So, sorry for the heaviness if it seemed that way this week, but this is where we're at. The gods, my dreams last night, there was some tension in the air. Kind of why I chose this vision behind me. We are at the apex of that erupting volcano. And the gods are sending down lightning to say, are you made of the right stuff to be able to be willing to live in a cause that you're worth dying for? It might come to that. There are some rather challenging forces at work set on keeping us apart, keeping the truth from us, and not making this planet a better place to live on. The ball is in our court right now. So my friends, stand together. We are not done. That's all I got for this week. That's all. Well, this was not a minor week to consider. And so, see you all next week.